Welcome to my session. This session is about configuration of customer service. My name is Hans Fagen. I'm a product developer in the customer service team. Before I started as a product developer, I worked as a consultant, traveling to different customers, holding different workshops, doing some customizations. So I pretty much have seen several customers and how we structure them to get started. This is our agenda for this session. We're going to look at a typical, very simplified request flow, and we're going to highlight the different configuration areas in the flow. Afterwards, we're going in depth to see how we can configure the email boxes, email filters, the categories needed, the priorities, the different statuses, and how we can manage several users. So, before we start configuring a system, we need to know something about the process. SuperOffice uses a method called SIM. Have any one of you heard of SIM before? Yes. In SIM, we have an activity called Business Analysis Workshop. This workshop will try to guess what the support process, not guess, but will document the support process with the customers in a meeting. But if it's a very small installation, 5 to 6 users, doing a whole day with the BA might be a little bit too much. Then you can use a combined business analysis and configuration specification workshop at the same time. How many of you have installed customer service before? That's nice. How many of you have configured customer service before? Also nice. But let's take a look at a typical, very simplified flow. You can see this, I hope. First of all, we have an incoming request. It might be a customer that sends in an email, log into a customer center. It could be a phone ticket screen in customer service. That's the area of logic. And it's also possible that when the user creates an incoming request, that he also gets some frequently asked questions directed back to him. But when you have an incoming request, the first thing the system does is categorize it, places it into a category. Based on that category, you can choose what kind of delegation method it should be. It also needs to have a priority. And connected to the priorities, it could have several escalation levels, for instance. After that, one owner has a ticket, and he needs to process it. What can you do? You then need to edit it. You might use the FAQ, you might use some reply templates, and you might have some dialogue, a little ping-pong chatter between him and the requester. So then we have the add message and the several reply templates. If you have solved the ticket, then you can say to the customer, yeah, it's solved. This is the solution. Thank you, come again. And what happens if he is unable to solve it? Then he needs either to escalate it to someone with more experience, for instance, a second line support team. So the escalate here means that it transfers the ownership of the ticket to another category, which then again repeats the process with processing the request, new dialogue with the customer, and hopefully he solves the ticket. So that was the pretty much very simplified request flow. We didn't have any escalations due to time constraints here. We often choose not to start with any alert levels in the first configuration. So let's start with the category management. Think of categories as functional groups, as a team. Don't think of it as a typical product, for instance, Microsoft, Windows, and then you have several other categories, Windows Server, Windows 9, Windows 7, Windows Server, and so on. think about it as a team-based, because you have, if you need high granulation of it, you can use extra fields instead. Because what the category gives you is delegation. You have the possibility for the members of the category to say that this is a weighted delegation. For instance, if you on the first row are members of a category, you will get one ticket, next one will get the ticket, and next one, and the next one. And you can also choose to have not delegation at all. People need to pick their own tickets. However, when you have an installation where people can pick their own tickets, you have the tendency that they only pick the tickets that they like. So using automatic delegation circumvents that picking. Well, using category memberships, you have also the possibility to restrict access. You can say that members of this category are the only ones that can see the tickets in this category. So the basic layout for a typical category structure is you have one category for support, you have one category for sales, and you have another category for instance, administration. Those are the three default categories in the system. But for bigger installations, you might have a category for first line support, you might have for second line support, third line support, and you might even have functional groups within those areas, teams that have specific knowledge of that product, for instance, or that type of problem. When you edit a category, this is what you see. A category has a name, it has an external name, which is available on the customer center. You can choose if it's internal or not. If it's internal, it's not being shown on the customer center, of course. And you have only members have access. That is the access restrictions. And you have also the default statuses for new requests, which you have the possibility to set as user-defined. And I talked a little bit about delegation of the categories. You have even assignments. For instance, if you have two members, they will get even distribution of those tickets. You have weighted, for instance, one of the users are more experienced than the other, so you can take maybe 5 more requests than the other. And you have different settings as well. You have the two users with fewest open requests. Note that this isn't the fewest open requests in that category, it's totally in the system. The normal, when I went to the different customers, the 3 first that I normally used, I pretty much used a weighted assignment. And here you have the different members. You see that you have a member. Let's see. Right here. Oh, why did you do that? Why did I see something else? Okay, let's not try that again. The different users that have access to these categories chosen are listed in the members section. And you can see here that Anders L have the number 1. This is the weight. He could have 5, and the next could have 1, for instance. If you use even delegation, we don't look at that number at all, we just see that he is a member. That was pretty much the categories. Any questions about categories? Okay, moving on. Email. The reason why I started with categories before email, even though the email is usually the initiation point, is that you need to have categories to map your emails to. If you start configuring the emails, you need to go back to the email section afterwards to adjust which category they go to. And as Erik told you earlier today, from SR2 we are supporting SSL and SMTP authentication and POPs and EMAPs. And for the SMTP settings, for outgoing email, you need to set the host and maybe the port if it's not the default port. The EJ term setup program will only set a host and port. If you need to enable SMTP authentication and so on, you will need to go into the web interface and do it from there. This is from the email boxes for incoming emails. You list the address and of course the protocol, which might be EMAP, EMAPs. You see that it stands MAPI there. For using MAPI, you need to have an external data exchange agent. So it's not, if you try to type in username and passwords and so on, and use the MAPI email type, you will see that you are not receiving any emails at all. That's because you need to use a MAPI mail agent that we have. Some of you might wonder why Facebook are doing in email filters, since Facebook practically isn't email. The reason for this is that the plugin system that we're using for Facebook, we kind of fake that it is an email. So that's the reason why you see Facebook there. POPs and EMAPs are the secure versions of POP and EMAP accordingly. Some of you might see that there's something called folder here. That is only relevant for EMAP setups. And next you have the category. So if you have created your categories before, it's easy to just set it once and be done with it. One tip that I have to you is the email fields. I see a lot of installations where email fields are not filled out. And I think the reason is that most people don't know what email fields are. When you get an incoming email from the system, or to the system, you will see that when you view the message, it will just say the email, where the email got from, and the date, but you see none of the other email headers at all. Then you have to press the show email headers button. And for normal users to see the email headers will be frightening. So if you here in the email fields type in to, cc, from, the next time you see an incoming message, you will see those be added to your message. So you don't have to press email headers at all. And next you have the reply template to reply to the contact. The default one, for instance, you might have two different boxes, but you have two different languages, for instance, or you have support at superoffice.no and you have support at superoffice.sa, and you want different reply templates to be sent there. Any question about email boxes? Then we have something called email filters, which we normally don't configure in the startup phase, unless they have very special emails getting in from, for instance, some maintenance tools or any other tools that generate a lot of messages, or for instance, out of office mails. It runs on matched messages. You enter a regex when you create an email filter, and observe that it runs even on requests that already exists. So if you set in your email filter that, oh, this ticket is going to support category because it contains support, And then the owner of the ticket sees, this is a sale-related message. Then he moves it to the sales category. And the next time you get an email with the support, it will be moved back to the support category. These are some of the properties of the email filter that we can set. Description. Be sure to have a nice description. One of the things that I have noticed is if you tend to have a lot of email filters, adding the date when you created the filter is a good practice, because we don't store any of that information. We had a customer who used the eJournal for several years, and some of the filters, they had 238 email filters at the end, and we didn't know which one was in use. So add the date to it so we can see if this is an old filter or not. An email filter can also be connected to a script, which can do other tasks as well. For instance, parsing a webmail form. We have some tabs, find regular expressions, set links, and set values. You use them. They are most for the more advanced uses of email filters. What we normally use is the set properties. For instance, setting the owner, or saying that block this email, it is an out-of-office email. Please don't check permanently delete email. The email filters might trigger on some email that you don't want to have deleted, because one customer might send in, why am I getting all these out of offices, and you have created an email filter that deletes it. Then there are no way of knowing that this is an incoming request or not. You will never see it in the system. So use block email. And you have also the possibility to set the email response. For instance, if you get any alert warnings from a system, you can say that I want this sent to me. I want them to use a reply template, for instance. Or I want FAQ entries to be suggested. All email filters needs to be connected to one email box, or all of them. You see that you have a number here, 7379. This is actually the Facebook email box. This number will be different from other installations. Any questions about email?
This field you have with SMS, is it with this? Is it about this plugin that's you deploying with SR2? Can you send a reply to SMS? There was a field like to SMS.
Yeah, you see the fourth one here. SMS is currently only supported in Norway, and they need to have a special license for it, and also with a vendor. Eric mentioned the SMS gateway that we're working on, 7.1. This one will allows partners to create their own plugins for the SMS, and then this will definitely be available for that. Priority management. Priorities are, well, for the first configuration, most of the time we leave it by default, because the customer aren't sure what they actually want. Do they want to get notified that no user has read the requests? You have to get a little bit more feeling about the system before you start digging into all those alert levels and so on. However, it is possible to configure it in the first place. What the priority, how the logic works when priority is chosen. It is by default by the email box. We saw previously that we had a drop down for a priority in the email boxes, but you have also the possibility to say on a company that it has a default priority. For instance, if you have a customer, a very important customer, you can say that the priority for this customer is high. And if you don't like a customer, you can set low, for instance. Furthermore, we have the different escalations. What happens if no user has read the request? What happens if this request hasn't been closed within a while? Then we have the different alert levels. You might have an SLA agreement that says you have to close the ticket before it's gone 24 hours. Then you can have alert levels that say within 8 hours you will get a notification that no one has touched the ticket. And within, let's say, 22 hours that no one has actually done anything. It still hasn't been taken care of. And we have something called deadline. You might have noticed when you're configuring alert levels that you have something called deadline. The deadline field has no other purpose than to illustrate that this is the deadline. We don't use the deadline for any logic in our system at all. The priorities has pretty standard attributes, name, status, sort order. This is how they're being listed in the view. And then we have something called use as default. What happens if you don't have set priority on the mailbox, or if this is getting from the customer center or something else? What is the default priority? And then we have something called escalate request according to time frame. For instance, if you have a customer that has opening hours from 8 to 4 and they want the reports to be generated, you have some fields called time to reply and time to close. Those are calculated based on the time frame, which you will see here. This is pretty much self-explanatory, I think. You choose the from and end the time, and the holidays. Those holidays they're pretty static. So if you suddenly, some of the days they are pretty Norwegian as well. 1st of May, 17th of May, for instance. This time frame are used by the escalating events if you have chosen escalates according to time frame. This is where the magic happens with the alert levels. You can say when the escalation is going to stop, when it's going to continue, but we're not going to look at all. There are 3 different choices: stop, continue, restart. As I said, this is something that we normally don't configure at the first installation, at the first time, after the first workshop that we have with the customer. We normally go back after a couple of weeks to have a meeting with the customer to try to find out what is your experience with the system. Have every tickets been taken care of? If not, maybe we should add some alert levels to notify the users. Then we have the statuses in the system. Any questions about priorities and alert levels? The system comes with 3 standard statuses, or actually there's 5, just 2 hidden. You have open, an open request, you have a postponed, you have set an activation date on the ticket, and when that activation date appears, the ticket will move from the status postponed into open, and you have it closed. I mentioned that we have some fields that say when did the ticket close. We have the time to close field for reports. The time to close field are based on the time it went from open status to the closed status. So if you have postponed it in the meanwhile, the reports will not show that at all. You have also the possibility to create your own custom statuses. For instance, waiting for a customer. I have gotten a request, I answer it because I need more information, I send it off to the customer. And in the system, all customer statuses must be linked to an internal status, one of those three, open, postponed, closed. When you send something to a customer, what is most natural internal status to put it? If you're sending it to the customer, I would probably say that is closed. You're waiting for more information from the customer. But if you're waiting for a third party, for instance, you have escalated in to one of your vendors and you need more information from them, then you still have the responsibility of the ticket. Then you can use postponed to say that I give my subcontractor 3 days to answer. So I postpone the ticket 3 days. And if I don't have an answer, the ticket will be activated and I can send another email to the vendor, maybe call them.
Is there a chance to create a status like it is now with the SuperOffice support that if someone is not replying in 3 days, it will be automated replies asking to get back to support? Is it any of them to choose, or it needs to be like a script?
It's not standard functionality to have that kind of process, but you could script it. You could say that when you put a request in that status, you could tag it and have a scheduled task to run every day or every minute. And when that tag occurs, you will send the reply template to it. Any other questions? So all statuses linked to internal status. This is the list view where you have the default ones. Linked are connected. For instance, if you just a Norwegian, old English word. If you merge two requests, we still keep both of the requests in the system, but one of the requests gets the status linked or connected. Then we go over to user management. And you have two utilities to help you with user management. You have groups and roles. Roles will allow you to set different properties, for instance, different category memberships onto the users. Groups, however, are only hierarchical. Be advised that this is not the same as in sales and marketing. So if you create a new role in customer service, it will not be created in sales and marketing. They are different things. We shall also take a closer look in a slide about common settings for users. So, roles. It allows you to use common profiles. Do any one of you know what a profile is? A profile will allow you to view different data. For instance, you have support and you have a sales team. The sales team are not interested in what was the cause of the problem or any other things. The support team wants to know what kind of product it is, what kind of problem is it, did we solve it, and so on. Then you can use profiling to display the different extra fields and information about the user, about the request. Profiles are also used for setting different search criteria when they press find requests. You can have that support team, they will see name, category, and so on. And the sales team might see which one of the requests am I a key account for. Then the rules also allows you to have category membership embedded. For instance, if you are managing 20 or 50, 100 users and you get another user, the easy way to give him all the attributes that he needs is by using a role. When you connect it to the role, you will get the same categories, the real access levels that he needs, and you don't have to worry about it. And you have also the possibility to set the different rights. For instance, he's only allowed to see his own request in his own categories. And you have also the possibility to say that he isn't allowed to have this right. This can get you into a very awkward situation. For instance, if you are an administrator, you have the SuperOffice customer service administration right in the system, and you have a role called support, which excludes the SuperOffice eJournal or customer service administration rights, and you connect your user to that role, you will lose your administration rights. So don't connect any of your admin users to a specific role, especially if it has access restricting in it. Let's take a look at the most important settings of a user. So you might have seen when you view the attributes of a user that there's a lot of user settings, and some of them are from ages and not relevant anymore. But one pretty obvious thing is the signature. It might be personal, it might be company specific. You have the retained formatting when pasting text. For instance, if they're into a Word document and copy and paste that into the message, if this setting is not enabled, they will only see the pure text, the plain text. If this is enabled, they will be asked if they want to retain the formatting or not. Automatically quote the last message. For instance, if you have an open ticket and you want to respond to the user, common courtesy is then to add the relevant sections of the previous message. If this is not enabled and they want to quote something, they need to manually select it. One of the minuses with using this setting is that the conversation tends to grow. You might see that I heard several customers complaining about it because I sent him one mail with just one line, but it turned into be 50K with an email message. And then one email message contains all the conversation that has been on the request. Then the request tends to grow and grow and grow and become very, very hard to follow. So if this one is enabled, also advise the users when you're having a user course, for instance, that if the conversation has grown a little bit, try to reduce a lot of the text that is included. It's also nice to set up a default category. For instance, if you are a supporter, you want that every request that you create has a default category. For if you are sitting on the support line and you're getting a lot of requests, and most of the requests that you're getting are, for instance, support, choosing a category then will become really a pain. So if you're working on support or sales, if one of your customers are doing that, try to set a default category as well. And we have several notifications. I have some screenshots too. These are screenshots from the user settings screen. And the notifications. By default, we set all the notifications to pop up. But if you, for instance, have users that are not going to be in the system the whole time, try to enable email as well. Because you only get the pop-ups when you are logged into the system. So for users that are seldom logged in, email, enable that one. You also see that we have all down at the bottom, custom messages. This is actually a nice feature that allows you as a consultant to create logic in your scripts that displays a pop-up. Okay, why did we check there? Okay, down to system settings. Let's see. Some of the system settings are set by default when you install the application. For instance, the system administrator, the default from address, and error messages. After you have run the configuration specification, that's what the values really are. So try to set them correctly. And also remember to update your tag. A lot of installations have the EJ tag. Try to choose something else. Reference, ticket. So that you don't see EJ tag. It's really fun when you see a lot of messages with EJ tag. One ticket number, EJ tag, another ticket number. It gets a little bit confusing for the customer when there's so much. Then we have some properties that is pretty much good to set for the user experience. For instance, if you have registered a new request and you have a customer center, try to set the external access level as default so the user can see your tickets that you have created from within the customer service. Enabling copy to contact by default. How many of you have had issues with customers saying to you, when I press add message, no email are actually sent out? I hear that a lot. If copy to contact by default is enabled, when you press add message, the customer that is listed in customers will be added to the to field automatically. So when you press add message, you can only type in the message and press OK. So for email-based conversations, enable that one. And you have something called do not send email to new contacts. I usually enable that one as well. The reason for that is when someone that we don't know in our database is sending a request in, we automatically send them, hi, welcome to the da-da-da, your username and password is da-da-da. We automatically create a contact person on that person. So if you check this one, you will not do that. And then you have some settings for single sign-on. Use user authentication for the users, and you have use customer authentication from web server. It's not that easy to enable single sign-on for your clients. There are articles on it on 7 Tech Talk to how to enable single sign-on. Other features in customer service that we have are, for instance, invoice types. And we have different reply templates, and we have those system templates. System templates are used for sending out emails about you have a new request, there's new information in this request, and so on. We also have profiling and FAQ management. But normally we don't set up that on the first run. Any questions about how to configure a customer service? So you know everything. Okay, that was the last thing that I had about it. Remember to submit an evaluation. You can do it online or on a computer in the exhibition area.
Could we go back to the last one? The profiling. What's the profile?
Yeah, I can do. I'm just going to change some of the settings on my computer, and I can show you. I'm running the customer service from an image, so that's why it's a little bit slow. Let's see if I can see something. That was very slow. Okay, while we're waiting, profiling allows you to see or to set what kind of columns are going to be shown in, for instance, last requests when you view a ticket. It can also be used to set different criteria for searching after the tickets and for information you want to see when you're viewing an entry. Seems like I'm having some performance issues with my computer today.
But also you can different profiles with different user groups, right?
Yeah, you can connect a profile to a role. to say that support members are going to see this profile, and salesperson, administrative personnel have another profile. Any other questions while we're waiting for my computer?
Is there a way to show parts of that screen somewhere else, like without the navigator? Can that be accessed? Just to show the status screen and just to show the result of a selection? By copying a URL?
Where do you want to show it?
In an iframe somewhere.
Yeah, one of the caveats with doing that is those screens are for logged in users. So then there's no other way to circumvent it. So the user that is viewing through the iframe needs to be logged in. But let's say that you have a dashboard in the support center. That dashboard computer might be logged in to customer service. This was terrible.
But it's possible to just add a small keyword up in the URL to hide the menu on the left side.
It is?
Yeah.
What's that keyword?
Underscore hide framework equals 1.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. It worked perfectly before I started. Any other questions?
When you have an email account to the customer service, it can be only viewed by customer service. It will be like opened by Outlook. If the message is marked as read, it will not come up to customer service, is it?
Come again?
If the account for customer service needs to be only viewed by customer service module. And for example, if the same account will be viewed by, I don't know, BlackBerry or Outlook or anything like this, and the message will be marked, it will not be displayed over here in customer service. Right?
No, when we read an email from the email box, we will actually delete it from that box.
So there is no chance to view the emails as well, basically to have two copies of it.
One solution to that is setting up a forwarding address before customer service retrieves the message.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, that you have support underscore something, and you have the support account, and when an email gets to support at superoffice.no,
Just duplicate and send two copies.
and then it sends the copies to someone, but also sends a copy to the mailbox that we are actually retrieving. There we are. So you see those columns here, ID, title, created, owner, category. All those are, you have the possibility to change them. You see that we have this toolbox over here. If you press that one, you will see another screen. And here you can choose to add some more fields if you wanted to. For instance, if you wanted to add our contact, for instance, and OK. Now we have another field here about our contact. But what I did now was only for me. Other users will not see the same color. To be able to set that other users are going to see this column as well, we need to use either a default profile or a profile connected to a role. So for instance, if I go into the settings, the profiles, I find results there, then I have to create a new one, new common profile. Now this one is defaulted in the system. Those users that don't have their own profile, they will be using this profile. But let's say that I have a support role to create them as well. Let's say that we have a support role. And we have a sales role. I have the possibility now to say that everyone show up here.
It's default.
Yeah, true. I say that we want to change some of this. Change the order a little bit. Now I can say that this is the profile for the support team. And I can add several other profiles as well. For instance, the criteria here are also a possibility to say that that it isn't or that it is part of a profile. Let's say I want to have contact and our contact. Now if I view the profile section for the search area, I will see that I have my own profile here. Based on that I can create a common one. And I can also connect this one to the support role. Like this. Now, when I add members now, they will automatically get those profiles. And if I have a role for salespeople, they will see another set of profiles that which we haven't created yet. They will see the default ones.
What if they change the profile later on? Will the role setting be applied first? Or?
If the user himself chooses to add another field, he will create his own personal profile, and if he wants to go back to the role profile, he needs to restore the default one. So the personal roles are prioritized.
Yeah. So you can't disallow that?
Hmm?
So you cannot disallow that?
No. Or you could actually say that they're not allowed to do that, but then they don't have the possibility to restore the default one as well. Other questions? that's it.